What's up, everybody? Brian Twining. We are live on YouTube, the Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home here at fakepigskin.com. I am your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. Brian, we're live. We had a race yesterday. We got another race today. We're going to talk some betting. We're going to talk some DFS as people join us. Feel free to drop questions. I'll try and remind you throughout the 20 minutes or so we're on here, but just wanted to check in, see how yesterday went, talk a little bit about the madness that was kind of the end of that race, and parlay that into our thoughts kind of going forward. So first, before we dive into all that, how's it going, Brian Twining?
It's going good. It's starting to get hot over here over in SoCal, so it'll be nice to start cranking that AC while watching these races. And yesterday they definitely needed some air conditioning because that was a hot race. Holy crap, what a finish.
Yeah, I mean we're in the 110, 111, so yeah, things are glorious up here in Northern California. But wild race. Kyle Larson's until it wasn't Kyle Larson's. This dude is just absolutely destroying the field. And
It's
once
ridiculous.
again, as somebody holding an outright on him to win the Cup title, I'm not mad about it. And then Alex Bowman, I feel like when do we record that? Thursday?
Yep.
We had a nice little Alex Bowman conversation. Of course, did either of us take advantage of it?
No, of course
no, we
not.
didn't. Why would we want that, Brian? Why would we want to win money? No, but that doesn't make sense.
Hey, at least the Willie B top 5 hit. So that was
I
good.
did. Eric Almirola, not so much. I don't know if I have the guts to go back to it again today. We'll see. But yeah, so obviously with Larson's tire issue and starting near the back, it's going to make things interesting because it's not like you get the place differential from 35. You get place differential from 12.
Yep.
Who else do we have starting at the back today because of yesterday's issues?
Yeah, so there's actually 6 drivers who had to move to the back of the field due to either going to backup cars or certain changes to their vehicles, and that's the aforementioned Kyle Larson, and then you got Ryan Preece, Anthony Alfredo, Ross Chastain, Corey LaJoie, and Ryan Newman, who all those 5 guys, and Cole Custer as well. So it's not like any of those guys were in any threat to potentially win the race, but in terms of where they were supposed to start, I guess Preece and Alfredo 23rd and 26th kind of hurts their starting grid position, but the other dudes, they were already starting near the back. So
yeah, and Chastain is somebody that kept popping up on DraftKings betting board, which I thought was a little higher than I expected to see. So starting 33rd, 7,700 could make some sense if you're looking to potentially find some value. Let's throw up the betting board and take a look at what we're working with today. Talking the Explore the Pocono Mountains 350. Once again, Kyle Larson is the massive favorite, plus 225. Kyle Busch jumped Denny Hamlin for Sunday's race. Busch has been running really well, Brian, and seems to be a value. If you know the difference between him and Larson, I know Larson's been dominant, but over double the odds, I think that makes a lot of sense. Hamlin there. Your boy Willie Byron went from 10 to 8, plus 230 to top 3.
Finally, some respect.
Dude, he's getting it. The books are giving it to him. The bettors are giving it to him. So I think he's somebody that could be worth a look today. The aforementioned Bowman jumped up. I think he was close to 20 to 1. Now he's 13. It's always interesting, right? Because we do like to lean so heavily on historical data, historical information. But after yesterday, we saw, okay, this is what they're running like today, this year, with their current cars, their current teams. How is your brain processing all of that to kind of figure out what direction you may want to go today?
I'm definitely putting a little more credence into the way that yesterday's race kind of unfolded. When you're looking at the middle of the betting board here, you have guys like Harvick, Bowman, Keselowski, I mean, Truex not so much, but even Ryan Blaney, all of them were at some point or another throughout the race running top 10, close to the top 5. So they were right there.
Yeah.
But it's just knowing that that dude named Kyle Larson, who has been he's playing on a level less than everyone else, so it seems easier for Larson right now, just what he's doing, and I just don't see people really competing with how fast he's been.
Yeah. And even starting, at the back of the pack with the multiple stage races with 25 more miles, I mean, I could easily see him in that conversation yet again. And obviously, based upon the way he's driving, based upon the odds, DraftKings is saying, the betting windows are saying, we expect him to be there at the end.
Yeah.
Which is wild. But yeah, the dude's he's been earning it, and rightfully so. So if you're looking to bet somebody not named Kyle Larson, do you have a name? Do you have an outright that you're considering?
Honestly, I'm probably going back to that Bowman, Keselowski, like Blaney, Truex area again. I feel like they have just as good a shot. I mean, you have Keselowski running 11th, and over the last few laps there, I was seeing they were showing the average miles per hour, and Keselowski for a couple of laps, I think with like 10 to go, was actually running the fastest of anyone. So he's got the speed in his car. It's just a matter of whether or not he could put together an entire race. And then we saw Bowman. I mean, just the Hendrick cars have been ridiculous. And then, going even closer to that 10-1, I mean, Elliott, the other Hendrick driver, and then even Kevin Harvick. I mean, he performed pretty well yesterday. It's just hard betting him to win. I like him to potentially sneak into the top 5 today, though.
Yeah, Kevin Harvick plus 157 to top 5. I like that quite a bit. Keselowski plus 190 to top 5. I like that a lot. And we kind of talked about it. We were talking before on Thursday, but just the idea of these guys had a whole race to kind of get their car where it needs to be. Obviously, the people that had to get in a new car for some reason will have to spend a little more time trying to figure that out, obviously. And they're starting from the back, so that's a double-edged sword right there. But yeah, there's going to be some opportunities for those drivers that, especially down the stretch, figured some stuff out, got their car running the right way. And as you mentioned with Keselowski running really fast towards the end, there could be some really nice opportunities to produce today, so that they can get their car where it needs to be. And obviously with less advantage of finishing, because obviously they reversed once to 1 through 20 and then kind of beyond there. So I'm curious to see if we'll see a little bit of a difference today.
Yeah, and then something else too that I'm really kind of paying attention to when trying to build like DK lineups or even looking at the betting odds is who was running the fastest laps there. And when you look at it, I mean, Kyle Larson, 23 fastest laps, Kyle Busch, 17, William Byron, he was 11. So you're looking at guys who obviously have their cars dialed in for this particular track. So it kind of doesn't matter where they're starting. They're going to be able to pace the field and or make movements in terms of where they're starting at.
Yeah. Okay. So from the betting perspective, I mean, obviously we'll hit our best bets as we look to get out of here. But you're talking placings. Is there a top 5 or a top 10 that you like? Because I feel like the two we talked about, I feel like Keselowski at plus 190. I feel like Kevin Harvick at plus 157. Beyond there, like, do we trust Christopher Bell? Like, what happened there? The wheels just seem to be coming off as the season rolls along.
Yeah, I mean, he's not been terrible, even considering yesterday's 17th place finish. Prior to including the All-Star race, were a 9th and an 11th. So it's, but I mean, prior to that, we're looking at 24, 24, 38, 21. So yeah, it's hard to trust him. He's not really somebody I'm looking at in the top 10 market, even considering he's starting 4th. I think for me, this is going to be more going for the favorites. I like laying the juice with Ryan Blaney at minus 155 for a top 10. I think that's something that makes sense, or even going a little bit bigger and looking at his top 5 plus 220.
Yeah.
I like that a lot right there. And then even a guy like Chase Elliott, we all know what he's capable of. You're still getting plus money him to top 5. So
yeah, and Blaney has historically ran pretty well at this track. Looking over on driver averages right now to get an idea of some names. I mean, Eric Almirola keeps popping up, and it's driving me crazy because I want to bet him, but it's just not there. Like I can't do that anymore. And today will be the day when I decide to fade him that he'll finally follow through.
Yep.
It's so weird to see Joey Logano down this far. Like obviously there's a reason why he's there, and he has a history of not performing amazingly, but he did start 4th yesterday, finish 7th.
He's actually riding a pretty good streak of late. Over the last, let me look at this. 1, 2, 3. Over the last 5 Cup Series races, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or over the last 6, he has 5 top 10s.
Yeah.
I mean,
plus 250 to top 5 today. If you're joining the show, make sure you drop us questions if you have any DFS conundrums. If you have bets you're considering making, we're always looking for insight and thoughts, and want to happily give you some of our thoughts on where you're at. But yeah, Logano feels, I don't know. It's like it's weird because he's he's a big name that we expect to run really well.
Yep.
So do we actually think he's undervalued, or is he properly rated based upon his history, and we're trying to inflate him based upon the name and not the production?
I mean, in terms of recent run, I feel like he's slightly undervalued, but what he's done to, I mean, just as a whole this season, I think he's kind of placed just perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, he's three top 10s in his last 7 trips. No top 5s. He hasn't top 5 at this track since 2016 when he started 2nd.
Yeah.
So you know that don't love that, but
yeah. And then we got a question here by Jim. How do we feel about Corey LaJoie and Bubba Wallace? I'll let you go first, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, from a betting perspective, I don't know that I love either of them. But if we want to take a look from the DraftKings side, I think there could be some potential options there. Bubba ran pretty well yesterday. Started 20th, finished 14th. Put up 35 points on DK. That's pretty solid at 6,100. Today's 6,200. Obviously, starting a little higher. So don't love that you're the Bubba guy, Brian. But
yeah, it's hard to pay for Bubba starting in a T10 position, just kind of knowing like he's nowhere near a top 10 driver when looking at the guys that are on the board. I mean, if you're going to start 7th in a race, more than likely in most occasions, you're going to be on this particular betting board that we have listed here, and he's nowhere to be seen. So that just kind of gives you an indication as to where the experts and the pundits believe like his finishing position is going to be. So in terms of DK, you're looking at him losing numerous spots. So he's not somebody who I would be looking to pay for, even at the 6,200 mark. That's more palatable had he been starting in the low teens, low 20s there. Corey LaJoie, he's a guy who I've actually rostered a few times because he's almost always starting near the back of the field, and he's a guy who has shown the ability to finish top 20, and that's something that he's done actually the last 5 races, including the All-Star race prior to yesterday's race. So he's a guy who could give you, that good money for the value here at $5,900. You're looking at him just to move up into the top 30, which, I mean, if he avoids the first couple of crashes and doesn't have any car issues, I don't see that being an issue. And at $5,900, you're only asking for that. So he's somebody in DK I would be looking to potentially squeeze in to help me get those higher price guys.
Okay, but let me ask you this: there's two names that are below him on the DK salaries that I always find myself gravitating towards probably because I'm a moron.
I already know who you're here.
Yeah, Eric Jones and Ryan Newman. Ryan Newman starting 37th, Eric Jones starting 22nd. I feel like, especially in terms of, track history, I feel like they're a little bit better. I feel like they're a little bit safer, and I feel like you're saving a couple $100. But like I said, I like to lose money. I don't like to win it. So, is Corey LaJoie the play over those two guys?
As much as I hate to say it, as much as I love Eric Jones, he was somebody I mentioned yesterday. I had him in my core. The fact that he wasn't able to really make a move in terms of any movement points.
Yeah, he didn't have a very good race yesterday.
No, I would probably go LaJoie because the likelihood of LaJoie moving into the top 30, top 25 potentially is probably a lot higher than Eric Jones moving those same amount of positions into the top 15 or top 12. So
that's an excellent point. And
I would probably go LaJoie over Jones.
Yeah. And we've seen Eric Jones, but a lot of that was with Joe Gibbs Racing. Now he's Richard Petty. Doesn't seem to be having quite the same success. So I think that makes a heck of a lot of sense.
Now, I do like Ryan Newman starting at the back of the pack. He's a guy who, if he can avoid problems, again, all you're looking for is, hopefully maybe double-digit increased spot there. I mean, starting 37th, I think he's at right now. Are you hoping, just like LaJoie, get into that top 30 and maybe move a few more, and you're going to get 25, potentially 30 points out of $5,500.
Yeah, that's completely fair. Let me drop this and let's talk a little more DK. Let's head over to DraftKings. And look at some of the the big money guys. Figure out where we're going to spend a good chunk of our salary this week. I know you were working on a lineup, Brian. I'm doing the same over here. Obviously, we're trying to build a few, see where our heads are at. Obviously, Kyle Larson, we talked about. He's 12.8. It's really expensive. Starting 12th.
Yeah,
I still think he can rewarded, have a decent reward, but he is going to be somebody that it's just going to be hard for me to get to, especially when we're talking Kyle Busch starting 19th at 11 and Denny Hamlin starting 17th at 10.5. At the top, all the way down to say 10K or less, Harvick and up. Is there one name that you prefer over the group, or is there a potential that you're trying to jam in a couple of those guys for your lineup this week?
I think my favorite of that group is Kyle Busch. Even if he doesn't win the race, he's a guy who is probably going to get into the top 5 fairly quickly here and potentially finish there. I think Kyle Larson having to go to the backup car. I know these car is probably tuned exactly the same, but it's obviously the backup car for a reason. So there is a slight chance that it does not drive the same way, and they can't get the fuel proper. I mean, we're kind of nitpicking with Kyle Larson at this point, considering he's had over 44 DK points pretty much in the last, I think, 8 to 10 races. So
but
you know what you're getting.
$1,000 more than Martin Truex, the second next driver. And when you're trying to build lineups and build lineups that are going to cash, you have to nitpick, especially at the top.
Yeah, and it's really difficult too, because with these particular drivers starting near the middle, how many dominator points are we going to get out of them early? I think that's the issue. Is I was looking at potentially putting in Michael McDowell into one of my lineups because he's starting on the front row. If he can get out to a lead, if he could jump into the first spot and say lead 10 to 15 laps, I mean, that's going to be crucial. And as long as he doesn't fall back beyond like 20th, I think that kind of makes up for that. And at 5,400, you're still getting value for the money at the potential of saving so much and getting a Larson and a Busch in your lineup.
For sure. So Jim says he has 6,200 left for one driver. He already has Ryan Newman in his lineup. If you're looking at 6,200 or below, Brian, is there a name? You mentioned Michael McDowell at 5,400. I don't know what Jim's Dominator looks like, but that could be an interesting way of finding some early Dominator points, hoping that McDowell can not absolutely smash you, um, in terms of finishing. Because if he ends up finishing 27th or something, then
Yeah,
then
then
you're
you're
cooked.
hurting.
That's kind of the danger there. But is there a name? Ryan Preece, Alfredo, Justin Haley. I think LaJoy might not be
Yes.
the play. And the thing I like about him too is I always like to leave a few hundred on the table, especially in any sort of GPP, just because I feel like it gives you a more distinct advantage. Where if you're filling out your complete salary, the odds of somebody else having the exact same roster is a lot higher. So that's kind of where my head goes, and it looks like Jim's going that way too. So
Yeah,
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I love that call. That's something that I've had to kind of wean myself
Mm-hmm.
away from as I've gotten more into DK, and especially with NASCAR, is not feeling like I have to use every single dollar.
Yeah.
Because like you said, when you're playing those GPPs, in all likelihood, the majority of people are having numerous lineups with all of the top guys in them. So you're trying to differentiate somewhere.
Yep. First off, thanks to everybody hopping on and joining us. We really appreciate you joining the show. Feel free to drop questions, whether they're betting or DFS. Brian and I are here each and every week breaking down the NASCAR race, and our goal is to start doing these live streams before Sunday as kind of like a pre-show for NASCAR races. So if you're enjoying what we're doing, please hit the subscribe button, share the show around on Twitter or Facebook or wherever you are on social. Tell your friends that are into NASCAR and send them our way. It really does do a lot to help the show, and we'll try and keep as much content going as we possibly can. So it looks like he says Larson, Byron, or Bowman, I think is what he's asking. So if we're looking near the top, what about Alex Bowman? Obviously ran really well yesterday, starting 20th today, 8,700. If you're starting with Kyle Busch, if you're starting with even Chase Elliott, could that be the next logical kind of jumping on? Oh, Larson, Byron, and Bowman are his dominators. I like that call. But could Bowman make a lot of sense as somebody to kind of jump to next after you kind of get your big fish?
Yeah, I mean, he's starting again. You're going to get plenty of movement points because unless he crashes out, he's probably going to get into the top 10 once again here, right? So
Yeah.
Starting 20th, you're looking at good value. He's only 8,700. So yeah, he's a guy who I would be trying to put in a lot of lineups.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he makes a lot of sense. I also think William Byron makes a lot of sense. Starting 18th.
I think he's probably, again, my favorite driver today. At 9,000.
You're such a William Byron stan. Like, dude could like do nothing wrong in your eyes. It's amazing, and he's been incredible.
He's my NASCAR man crush now.
He is incredible. I mean, I hitched my wagon to the Christopher Bell experience, and it's just gone downhill ever since then. So, I'm sorry to Christopher Bell and his family for bringing him down. I'm building a nice little lineup over here, Brian. I started Kyle Busch. I started Alex Bowman. I put William Byron in there because fun. Ryan Newman. I'm going to put Corey LaJoy in, and then I'm going to be making a real tough decision for my last spot. I have 9,900. I can get to Logano. It could be interesting. I can get to Ryan Blaney, Kurt Busch, Matt D. Matt D is interesting at starting 32nd.
I just can't get on the DiBenedetto train every time.
Know. But he's I don't know. I don't know what it is, but he's another guy that I just keep finding myself gravitating towards. And sometimes it works out great and sometimes not so much.
This will be a really interesting race with how many top flight guys are starting at the middle of the middle of the field. So it'll be interesting especially the first stage to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see if they can all kind of escape the madness and get to clean air and get to the front, because I think there's going to be some issues, some accidents, and it could wipe out a big chunk of notable names. So
I think
Brian,
it. I
go
was
ahead.
just gonna say another interesting guy for this race is Daniel Suarez. He's starting A, so he's starting in the fourth row. He was running really well yesterday. He wound up finishing 13th. He was near the top 10 pretty much the entire day. I mean, starting in that top 10 position, he's a guy who was able to make some moves. If he can just maintain, which is kind of what he did yesterday,
Yeah,
and potentially stay in the top 10 at, I mean, he's the most expensive he's been in quite some time right now, but
yeah.
at
But I mean,
7,100.
his last five races, if you take away the All Star race, 25, 36, 52, 31 DK points. That's pretty solid. Pretty solid for a guy that was riding the struggle bus all year last
Yes.
year. Could make for some interesting calls for sure. Okay, Brian. What? Ooh. Let me know what you think of this lineup. Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, William Byron, Ryan Newman, Corey LaJoy, and Brad Keselowski. Would you replace Keselowski with Ryan Blaney or Joey Logano or Kurt Busch?
Uh, I really thought Keselowski was gonna do slightly better yesterday.
Yeah,
I mean he put up 44 points because he started 18th, and with him
right.
starting right near the top 10, I think there's a chance that
He kind
he
of finishes
moves.
right there.
He moves up into the top 10, and then that's kind of where he finishes. So I'm like maybe a top 5.
Yeah.
Um, I like Blaney with the potential to do a little bit more, especially starting 5 spots back
Yep.
further from Keselowski. So I'd probably go Blaney over Keselowski, just where the starting position is.
Yeah. I think that could be the move. He started 27th, finished fifth yesterday. He's a guy that every time I want to be really excited about him and be all in, I tend to find he tends to ride the struggle bus and not have the race that I kind of hoped he would. So, Brian, I know you said you had a lineup that you were looking at. Why don't you hit people with that?
All
We'll
right.
hit our best bets, and then we'll call it a day.
All right. So I'm going Kyle Busch. I think he's of the 2 top guys. I think he's my favorite in terms of like guaranteed points, which this is most definitely going to bite me in the ass. Then I got Chase Elliott starting in the top 10 with the Hendrick cars. I think he can make a push near the top, potentially compete for the win. Of course, William Byron, another Hendrick, 18th. Yeah, give me all those movement points. I'm going with Chase Briscoe once again, starting in the same exact spot, 24th. I think if he could sneak into the top 20, I like him at 7,900. And then I filled out the back end just like you with LaJoy and Ryan Newman starting at the back of the pack. All I'm hoping for is to get into the top 30.
Yeah, yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. And then anything beyond that is gravy. Okay. So since you hit your best bet yesterday and I did not, what do you got for Sunday's race?
Whoo, man. Well, man, this is a tough one. I I think I'm going all in on Kyle Busch here, and I got Kyle Busch top 3 plus 175 today.
Okay. I think I will be backing Kyle Busch. I think I will be looking at Keselowski to top 5, Ryan Blaney to top 5. Man, Matt D to top 10 plus 275. That is tempting, but I don't want to do that to myself. And Eric Almirola, because, I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm going to go Keselowski plus 190 to top 5. I think there's value there. I know you're not quite as optimistic as I am, but I think he can run solid today. I think he can get in that top 5 conversation. And at almost 2-1, I think there's a lot of value there. So I will take that For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. Make sure you hit the subscribe. Make sure you join us each and every week breaking down the NASCAR race. We will try and go live, so turn on those notifications so you know when we hit your live stream. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to y'all next time.